and she'd ran through that fiberglass into my ankle, and the fiberglass cut into my leg.
Oh my gosh!
Into the back of my heel, actually. So almost like punctured my Achilles.
Welcome back to the show. There's no telling where we'll go. So come and share a laugh on the Imp and Skizz podcast.
All right, Skizz. So your daughter talked you into attempting a half marathon, which you've been training for, right, for the past couple months, and recently experienced a calf injury.
Yep.
That's slowed you down a little bit.
Oh, big time.
So how you feeling about your odds of doing this half marathon now?
The window is shutting, and it makes me sad. And this makes for a good podcast because we're literally talking about injury. Yeah. We've had podcasts in the past where we talk about resilience and all of those topics in regards to being driven and doing what you want to do come with a component of course correction. Sometimes you need to course correct, and sometimes you got to adjust and pivot. And this one sucks because we talked about, my whole the answer is always yes thing. That's what got me into the half marathon. And we've talked a little bit about this in the past. And in fact, we talked about a couple podcasts ago, and I saw some really good advice in the comments too, from a really experienced runner on what to do. And for the most part, I'm doing what was mentioned, but there's more I could be doing from compression standpoint. But the way I'm feeling about it is I'm very frustrated, and this comes with injury.
Yeah,
right?
I can imagine.
I'm upset. My track record in regards to, what's funny is the only other time that my daughter wanted to do something with me, she wanted to film like a TikTok dance thing with me. And I couldn't do it that day or for whatever it was years and years and years ago. And it ate me alive to the point to where it was like, I'm the one who brought it up again. I'm like, okay, let's do that thing. And she's like, no, I don't want to do it anymore.
That's not cool anymore, Dad.
Yeah, exactly.
We missed it.
Yeah.
We missed our opportunity to go viral.
You got to be on it. But so I started that 8-week program to train for the half marathon. I was three runs in, then I got real sick, and I know this is a retell for some people, but I got real sick, and I'm like, okay, no big deal. I took a week off, and okay, 6-week program. I got this. 3 runs in, something happens to my calf, and that was bad. And so, okay, no problem. Let's just do what I need to do to rest. I rest for a few days and get back at it and instantly strain it again. And so, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do? And so now I'm at the point to where I went to work the other day and I had to wear these stupid boots because of this area I was in. And I'm just walking, and I start to feel it. Ooh. And I'm like, that's really bad. Yeah. It's got to the point.
So even the idea of like walking the half marathon now is out of the potentially
might be out of the question, right? So I'm like, the best thing I can do is to not wallow in this and just do something. That's why I've been going to the gym as much as I have, just trying to keep that was my wife's idea, and she's absolutely right. She's just killing it. She's ready. She's going to do very well in this half marathon. And obviously my daughter's going to crush it. But I'm going to the gym like a lot more, working on that endurance, just keeping the legs going. I'm not activating the calf muscles at all and all the stuff I'm doing. And I'm just, if I end up not being able to run it, I just don't want it to be because I didn't do everything I could.
Right.
That's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes some things are out of our control, and we have to make sure that we don't, wallow over things that are out of our control, right? Get upset and get dragged down. We talked about this a little bit with our resilience subject, and maybe talking about injuries and how we overcome them is a bit in that realm as well. But I think it's important because I kind of went through some of the same things growing up. I mean, like in high school, I was my freshman year, I was on the basketball team, and I wasn't like a superstar basketball player. I was good enough to make the team, which was awesome. But I was like third string, and so I didn't get a lot of playing time.
I'm surprised you were third string. You were really good.
I was good enough to make team, but there were some really, really ballers on the team. And but as the season went on, there was also nerves, anxiety.
Sure.
It's the first time I've ever been in like a school organized or like kind of like a upper echelon. I always played like kind of like the rec ball. It was like my first time in a more like club ball, kind of scenario. That's what you're familiar with your softball experience,
right?
But yeah, high school was like a bigger deal. There's actually like championships and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I was on the team, and as the season progressed, I found my coach finally, I started to calm down a little bit to where when I got on the court, I could dribble the ball properly because my nerves didn't completely you take over. I remember the first time I got put in a game, I thought that there was like rocks on the basketball court because I would dribble the ball and it would just go shooting off in another direction. And what it was like my anxiety and my nerves just took over so bad that I just like couldn't function. But anyway, I got to the point to where I was starting to calm down and get put in the game, and I was actually doing okay. And I started finding myself getting some more playing time. And I was like, okay, here we go. Like this is I'm finally making some momentum here, getting on my way. Like I could potentially see myself making the varsity team in a few years, because it was my freshman year. So things are getting better for me. My situation, my coach is playing me more, and basketball season actually like stretched across like the Christmas break at that time for whatever reason. I don't know why, but we had Christmas break off from the season, and I went to the park one night with my buddies to play a game of pickup, basketball, just to keep my skills up, and I decided to try to slam dunk the ball on a breakaway at the park, which was crazy at the time because I'm only 5'8", and I was 5'8" then, and but I was really into like jumping, like that was my thing. Everybody knew me as the guy that could jump really high, and when I went to the gym, I did mostly squats, and like I would do the that weight machine that you like lay back and you're pushing the weights like above you as you're like laying down. You're pushing them up into the air, and I would throw them. Like I'd put weight on it and I would throw it. So it would like hit the top of the machine and come back down and I have to catch it. Yeah. And it was like my way of like practicing being explosive. But anyway, I got to the point to where I could dunk a basketball on a 10-foot rim, and which was crazy. Everybody loves seeing it. I love doing it. It can make me feel good. Yeah. But I decided I was going to try to do this during a game. I'd never done it during a game, So I stole the ball. I was on a breakaway all alone. I'm off to the races, making sure they don't catch up. And what I didn't kind of realize at the time was that momentum is a thing. And so when I went up and I slammed the ball and I grabbed onto the rim, my body continued. Yeah. Right? My body continued out from under me. I went into full, kind of parallel with the ground mode. And at the same time, what I also didn't realize was this park, they didn't like when people slam dunk on these rims. Because typically, it's bigger people and they will bend the rims and stuff. So the park decided to put this metal sheet around the rim. Oh my gosh. So when you grab onto it, it's like it's hard to hang on to because it's digging into your hand. It's not that rounded rim. So I had two things against me at the time. I had the fact that my momentum was swinging my body out from under me, which meant I'm going to have to hang on to dear life if I'm going to get vertical again before I drop back down. And then two, this rim is actually cutting into my hand and it's making it impossible for me to hang on. And I couldn't hang on. So now I'm swung horizontal with the ground 10 feet in the air, and I let go. And I just go falling like straight to the earth, parallel with the earth. And I did what you almost have to do if you don't want to like die and land on your head. I had to put my hands out in front of me to kind of like catch my fall. Yeah. And so it was mostly towards my right side. I was kind of leaning as I fell, and I braced myself with my right hand, and my wrist broke. Oh my goodness. The thing was, it broke in two places. I found out later, but the thing was, like when it happened, I didn't know it. I don't know if my body went into like an immediate shock or what, but I didn't feel like it's not like they were mangled. You know what I mean? It's not like I looked at my wrist and a bone sticking out, or it's like it looks like an S or anything like that. It seemed okay until I tried to dribble the ball again. I stayed in the game. I picked myself up and I'm like, okay, we'll get back on defense, whatever. I can't remember if I actually made the dunk or not. Doesn't matter. But I started trying to play, and then I get past the ball and I catch the ball and I'm like, ooh, and I went to dribble the ball, and that was a no-go. And I'm like, guys, I think I'm out. I think I'm out. And I went home, and I got through the night. It was painful the entire night, but it was nighttime at that point. I wasn't gonna like wake up my parents to like take me to the hospital or something. And so I thought, let me just see if I can make it through the night. I woke up in the morning. Well, I didn't really sleep, actually. I was in pain so much. I didn't really sleep that night. But once the sun came up, I got up and I went to go to the bathroom. I remember because it was winter. I think I had like jeans on or something. I couldn't get my zipper down.
Oh.
Like, because, I use my right hand to unzip.
Yeah.
And I couldn't squeeze my fingers together to get my zipper down. I'm like, oh, yeah. Okay.
Something's
Okay.
wrong.
This is a problem. My mom got up and I said, hey, there's something really wrong. I told her what happened. And she's like, yeah, you probably broke it. And she took me to the doctor, and sure enough, they did x-rays, found out it was broken in 2 places.
Oh, jeez.
So that moment, I realized, well, that ends my season, my basketball season.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, okay, it makes sense now because March Madness is a thing in college and high school was still kind of doing the same schedule. So yeah, we would have been playing until like March. And so this happened at Christmas break. So I still had a few months of basketball ahead of me that I could have continued to work my way up and potentially got on the first string if I'd continued on the path I was on. But at that point, wrist was broken, and it was going to be broken for the rest of the season. There wasn't a chance I was going to play again, which was sad, obviously, because I had ambition. I always have ambition to rise to the top, and it wasn't going to happen. But what I did at the time is what I decided to do. My coach told me, he's like, hey, it's up to you. If you want to, you don't need to come to practice. If you don't want to, you can, just go heal or whatever. You can sit the stands and help keep stats and stuff like that. Or you can join the team and practice. You just can't obviously play. And I said, you know what? I'm part of this team. I want to be with the team.
That's good.
And so every drill that I could do, even with a cast on, I would do. And that was an interesting choice because if you've ever had a cast on for 8 weeks or whatever it was, exercising and sweating
gross
in a cast with it, you don't get changed out that often because it was just a mold, right? They would just put a mold on your arm and it would stay there for 2 months. It got stinky. It got stinky. But I just had to do it. I had to show the team that I wasn't gonna let an injury kick me off the team. I was still going to be there sweating it out with my brothers, and putting in just as much effort. Yeah, I can't actually play the game anymore, but I was doing line drills and I was beating them with a cast on, because I just had to do that. It was just innate in me to.
So why didn't you go play again the next year?
So I went after I healed. I did do a summer camp with the team, and it was for what would have been JV, junior varsity, would have been my sophomore year. And something happened, the dynamic with the coach and the team changed, and I just didn't really feel great about the whole situation. It didn't feel fun to me anymore. Just the vibe had changed. And then at the same time, I'd gotten the offer to get into the marching band, and I knew that doing basketball and marching band at the same time, the schedules conflicted quite a bit.
Oh, gotcha.
So I had to make a choice. And I chose to go into marching band. So I didn't do marching band my first year. My freshman year, I did basketball. And then my sophomore year, my second year in high school, I chose marching band over basketball and stopped that basketball journey.
That's incredible. I knew that you broke your hand doing a dunk. I've known that this whole time, and I didn't know the specifics of that sheet of metal on the rim. I didn't know that stuff.
That sucked. Whoever put that metal there, gosh,
that sucks.
I get it. I get why they don't want people bending their rims, but that caused me to break my wrist in 2 places.
Yeah, that's incredible. And that so now it's not like you never played basketball again. Well, obviously we played a lot together at our place of business for a while there, and we actually played. I can't even say it without laughing. We played on the Suns court a 3-on-3 game,
little basketball tournament. It was only for people from our workplace as well.
Just take our word for it. We looked really good and really fluid.
We looked professional. We were shooting NBA threes.
It was the
swishes.
worst. We were so bad. Well, it was. What's funny is when we went to do that on that court, on the Suns court. I remember. The very first shot I ever was just warm up. I took a 3-pointer shot, and the 3-pointer in the NBA is deep, dude, way deeper than college.
That extra 2.5 feet or whatever it is really makes a difference.
Yeah, so I remember looking at it, being like, "Dude, this is really far away," and I threw that up, and I hit it, and it was my first one, and you came over and gave me a high five. You were just like, let's do this.
We thought we were going to dominate the competition.
We were so bad. Anyway, so you did end up playing again. How did you deal with the fact that, so you were on this trajectory and it sounds like the dynamic of the team changed, like you said. So are you suggesting that had you not broken your arm, you still would have not played anymore your sophomore year?
I think had I not broken my wrist, I would have continued to grow as a player and maybe work my way up to some decent playing time. You know, maybe not first string, but probably next, you know, like next man up type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it probably would have given me more confidence for going into the next season. I might have chosen basketball over marching band. I probably would have passed my opportunity up to do marching band and be a drummer again. I mean, I can't remember if I just didn't drum at all my freshman year. I don't think I did. I wasn't in any kind of band or anything. So I had actually like traded drumming for basketball.
Yeah.
And then back is what happened. But yeah, I think if I had continued the season and been able to continue to like, yes, I hung out with my team, I did drills and everything, but there's something different in not being in the game, you know, and passing the ball to teammates during a game and stuff. And that's what like really grows that camaraderie. And I think when I came back for like the summer league, it just felt totally different. And I don't know if I just didn't feel accepted or if the coach was completely unfamiliar with me. I think that was probably the biggest problem, right? Because the JV coach obviously would pay attention. They'd go to the freshman games and kind of like get their prospects figured out.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't in the game. So come summer league, I'm a new guy, right? I'm the outcast. And so never really got the coach to buy into me during the summer league. And I knew I wasn't going to make the team or I was going to be sitting the bench pretty hard had I made JV anyway.
Mm-hmm. It's hard stuff, man. And I always think about like injury for regular folks like us is a nuisance. Injury for people where their ableness, if you will, is their livelihood, like professional athletes. That's why you see these grown men who are like 250 pounds of muscle weeping when they know they tore their ACL and they know their career might be over.
Yeah, we just witnessed that. Kyler Murray, quarterback for the Cardinals.
And here's what people don't understand. Now I can speak to this because, I can speak to this because I know what the journey is to get to that level, right? And because I've been watching my daughter do it, and it's a long, painful journey. That like when you see somebody who tore their ACL in the NFL, that moment has been 20 years, like they've been going at this their whole life. Their life has been dedicated to this craft, and for it to come raining down like that is so heartbreaking. And I don't know how those people make it back. Now sometimes, you know, they come back and they go through a lot of therapy and they do their thing and they come on back, but they're almost never the same, right? There was it wasn't an ACL to my knowledge, but it was, you know, one of the greatest. One of the greatest wideouts of all time is Larry Fitzgerald. There's no question that he's one of the greatest. I am biased enough to say he's the greatest. I'm just going to say that. Also, he's like he's been my hero forever.
He's like a fantastic human being.
He's a fantastic human being.
Really sells it.
Yeah. He's like the guy's everything. He's as humble as they come. And back in his heyday, when he was everything, he was, you know, back when Warner was throwing for the Cardinals, and Larry Fitzgerald and Warner were just. It was like a Montana Jerry Rice combo.
Yeah, they were on the same page.
It was ridiculous. So anyways, and Larry would do this thing, if you remember, where he would jump to get the ball. So what ended up happening was there's jumping, and then there's the pictures would be this. It'd be him up in the air grabbing the ball while the cornerback, who's the defender, their head is at like his stomach or hip area. And what people don't know is that the cornerback also was jumping. But Larry was jumping that high, and when secondaries would be interviewed, like safeties and corners, their response was, "I don't know, he jumps that high." Like it makes it. And remember, the commentators, when he would catch it, the commentators would say, "It's not even fair. This isn't even fair." So he was in the Pro Bowl, and I remember who was his quarterback was in the Pro Bowl. You heard him on the sideline. He's like, "It's not even hard. You just throw it in his direction." Like in the quarterback who's throwing to him is saying, "This is not fair."
Up for grabs, he'll get it.
Right. And so then you fast forward the clock, and I think it was not Warner, but I think it was Drew Stanton. I don't quite recall who it couldn't have been. It may have been Leinart. I don't care. Anyways, it wasn't. He throws it to Larry, and it was a bad choice to throw this ball for two reasons. One, you're setting up your receiver for injury because you have to see what's closing in on them, and two, Larry will jump in front of a train to get the ball if he needs to.
Right.
And he jumped up and he got drilled in the knee. And it was bad. And he gets up and he hobbles off the field. And everybody, a Cardinals fan, if you're a Cardinals fan, your heart sank that day. You knew this was bad. He missed a game or two. He played for several years after that. It was never the same Larry.
Yep.
Never. He was always a force, but it was never the same Larry. He never jumped the way he was able to. So this is a moment to where the injury was directly applicable to what he was able to offer to the team. He, as an athlete, changed drastically in that moment. He didn't have a choice. He had this huge injury. These are the people that my heart breaks for them. I remember seeing that, being like, dude, I would take that injury. I don't need to be in the NFL. I'm not in the NFL. I don't need to be in the NFL. He needs to be I would take it from him.
If he could just trade,
Yes. It's awful.
Yeah. That's like, I feel bad that I didn't have some kind of redemption arc on my injury story. I know that, like, that would have been nice. Like, no, I came back and I rejoined the team and I almost went professional. You know, I wasn't going to make it professional. I knew that at the time. You kind of know who's got it and who doesn't, right? But I mean, to see those kind of things happen, and we'll find out too. I mean, I don't know how many football fans we have, but like we'll find out what happens with Kyler Murray now that he's gone out with a ACL. I think it was tear
in a game that was already lost too. I mean, it was just like it doesn't get any worse.
Yeah.
I guess it wasn't already lost, but it felt like it was just because it's been a bad season. But you know, and I talk about, like, you know, my daughter doing what she's doing in college, and this is, you hear early on, it's different. Club ball's different. It's not school ball, right? Like when she would play school ball, and keep in mind that her school ball was for a while there one of the best in the state. That was her downtime, right? She made varsity as a sophomore, and she didn't have to try. Like, it was because she's on these ridiculous club teams where they travel all over the nation. And her whole life was about softball. And it was about working for the moment of getting into college and playing college ball, specifically D1. She wanted to play D1 college ball. That was her goal, right? We just did a whole thing about goals. She set a goal and she did it. But she wanted to play D1 college. And you learn early on, when these girls are like 10, that the percentage of girls who go on this venture, it's like less than 5% end up making that. And these are all girls. These are not girls playing around with softball. These are girls who they're younger, but they're on club teams. This is what they want to do. And less than 5% end up getting to that level, right? I've never double checked those numbers. This is just what the authorities in this world have conveyed to me. And they tell you that because they don't want the parents being too let down when 95% of you are, it's not going to happen, right? So she works for it. And I mean, we could do an entire podcast about just my daughter's journey and the amount of coaches she's had who I've wanted to knock their teeth out. I mean, like it goes on and on.
I've been through one of those myself with my son.
Yes. Yeah. And it goes on, and it just goes, the stories, the pain, the tears, dude. Like the tear to happy ratio is way out of whack. You know what I mean? It's 99% tears, blood, and sweat for 1% of glory. I mean, that's what this world is. She fights, she does her thing, and boom, it happens. Somebody from New York comes out and sees her, and because they knew the coach, and the coach was like, I know you're going to need a catcher. You want to take a look at this girl. They flew out here, they looked at her, made the offer, they looked at her grades, they looked at her play, they looked at her ethics, and she got the offer. Rock and roll. Let's do this. Now she's over and in New York, and then I'm talking about last year, and she's going through the proving weeks are around the corner, and injury right before proving weeks. And she was, because she ran too much, but she ends up injuring her foot to where she, like, not to mention catchers they're the football player of the team. They're like the amount of squatting they do. And, and she's also a runner. And so she damaged, so she couldn't play at all during proving week, lost the entire year. Like, less than 5%. She pulled it off. She got there, lost the whole year. You know, it was like, it was so frustrating. She was not able to, and during fall ball, which is not the real stuff, she did really well. So she was like, hey, you're looking good. You're doing some good stuff here. You're a freshman. You might not get all the playing time in the world, but you're looking really good here. Proving weeks come, she can't play at all. She lost it all. And so she was like, it was like she wasn't on the team.
Wow.
You know what I mean? I mean, she did play a little bit, but it was so minuscule. It was like, dude, that proving week was really bad to not be playing.
Yeah.
So it's like, you go through all that, and what did she do? You know, she had a rough season. But she said to me, she said, Dad, I just decided I'm just going to be the best teammate I can be. That's what I'm going to do. You know what I mean? And so she was all season long. I mean, talk about that resilience. And then she worked, she's back now, and she's back. She's like twice the athlete now than she was last year.
There we go. There's the redemption arc we were looking for.
Yeah. Right. You're right. So now she's running so much, and I can see what she's running because I've got her on Strava. And I'm like, kid, what? You just ran a half marathon for fun? Like she'll run 10 to 13 miles. Like she probably runs, I think she runs over 50 miles a week. And I'm like, did you learn nothing from last year? She's like, Dad, my feet are fine. I'm taking better care of myself. I'm like, all right, just take it easy, man.
Yeah.
But she did
That's
it.
awesome, man.
Yeah.
And she's going to get some playing time this year, and you'll
Probably.
be able to go watch her.
Yeah, as long as she doesn't get hurt. And I'll be honest, she's got to get her bat moving. she's hotter. She's very streaky in her batting.
Dad moment. If you're listening to our podcast right now, you better have an earbud in your ear while you're swinging a bat.
Yeah. That's you're not wrong. I love you, Sweet Pea. I know she does listen to some of these, and she would agree. She's like, yeah, I need to get my bat moving. But anyways, well, my point being that, like, you're right. That is the arc. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And there was something to be learned by that. And as we start off this podcast with my calf story, and we all have a lot of injury stories. You actually have a really bad one that involves a jet ski. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, I was actually going through when I broke my wrist. Like it was actually like just a few months before that. It was the summer before my freshman year, I believe, unless I got my years wrong. But yeah, I mean, not that it impacted too much of. It did impact a little bit of my training for basketball to get into the freshman team, but. Yeah, what happened was we were out on a lake. We were visiting family out in Dallas, I think, or Fort Worth, and there was a lake out there somewhere, and we rented like jet skis. So it was my dad's brother that we were staying at, and his wife and daughter were coming out to the lake, and they wanted to rent a jet ski for them three to use, and we wanted to rent a jet ski for my family. It was me, my parents, and my sister for us to kind of go out and just piddle around the lake on the jet ski. And then my uncle has a boat as well. So they let me, for whatever reason, they let me and my cousin. And I think she was a year or two younger than me. So at the time, let's see, I would have been probably 14 years old or so. So she would have been a little bit younger, 15 maybe. And she would have been a little bit younger than that. And they let us ride these jet skis. And we don't have a driver's license or nothing. We don't know what we're doing. But we figured it out. So we're out on the lake, just riding the jet skis and having a good time, and the rest of the family was actually in the boat, and they had kind of like cruised past us, and they got her attention, and she wanted to do the whole look at me, I'm doing the jet ski thing. So she's actually I'm riding next to the boat, and she's like riding towards the boat trying to get their attention, and she's not paying attention to the fact that I'm kind of like side by side with the boat, and she just T-bones me.
Oh my gosh.
Right. So she's coming straight at the boat, just looking at her family to check me out, not seeing what's in front of her. And she T-bones me on the jet ski. And what happened was, if you know, like they're wave runners, actually. They're not like the stand-up ones. They're the ones you sit down on. Mm-hmm. And so they got like a little lip on the side that you kind of like tuck your feet into. Yep. So you got a little bit of fiberglass kind of protecting the outside of your leg. And she'd ran through that fiberglass into my ankle, and the fiberglass cut into my leg.
Oh my gosh!
Into the back of my heel, actually. So I almost like punctured my Achilles tendon right there. So it hit, and I flipped over the handlebars of the wave runner, and I passed out in the water.
In the water.
I passed out. Yeah. So here I was face down. I had a life jacket on, smartly enough. I had a life jacket on, so I was on the surface of the water, but I'm passed out face down in the water. And my sister jumped out of the boat and grabbed me and pulled me to the boat, saved my life. Of course, they pulled me up into the boat, and they see I'm bleeding all over the place, so they knew, they got to take me to the emergency room. And so they get in a car and put my foot, elevate my leg up on the dashboard, blood all over their dashboard in the car, and got to the hospital and got a bunch of stitches. For whatever reason, the doctor at the time didn't notice. I guess it's ankles are weird, apparently. He didn't notice that it actually had fractured my ankle. It was like a hairline, but it was a fracture. And so I didn't know I'd broken my ankle, and I just thought it was just stitches, and that's all. I was on crutches because I could tell it didn't feel right, and we decided just to go home after that. Just got back on a plane and went home. And that was during my summer. summertime. So I remember after we got back home, I had just braced my ankle so that I could play basketball. And I used to turn my ankle a lot, you know, like when you sprain your ankle and it kind of like turns to the side. Like my ankles were never really that strong. And so anytime I'd tweak my ankle, I'd have this brace that kind of like had two plastic pieces that go down the side of your foot and then underneath it to kind of keep your foot from like jetting out left or right. That's typically how you like twist your ankle. So I just wore that and I just went right back to work, you know, getting ready for, you know, my upcoming season or whatever. And after I'd practiced for a few weeks, I was like telling my mom, like, this isn't healing. Like this should be healing. Like it's not getting any better. And so we went to the doctor and they're like, yeah, actually it's broken.
Oh my gosh, dude.
So I was playing basketball on a broken ankle, not knowing. I thought it was just sprained or something. And so then they're like, okay, you're going to have to like actually take care of this. And it was weird. They ended up like saying, we're not going to cast it. You just continue with just a splint or whatever, but you got to like lay off of basketball for like 4 weeks. And so I ended up just doing that. I had no idea that I was like playing basketball on a broken ankle.
Dude, you're looking like Frankenstein's creature over there, dude, just all patched together. That's nuts, man. And I knew about that. So anything happened to her?
Not really. She was okay. She felt terrible about it. The jet ski sank.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Whoa,
yeah.
Gosh, that's a bad day.
I think they managed to pull it out, but like on their way back, they were getting to the ramp and it was like underwater by the time they got to the ramp, and then they pulled it out. So then they, of course, you know, they had to pay for it and stuff. That stinks.
Just because she straight up T-boned you, dude. That's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. It was weird because I'm just riding alongside the boat, you know, waving or you know, as well, you know, probably doing the same thing she was doing, but she was heading towards the boat. It's just not paying attention to each other. But it was just shocking, right? The whole thing's just shocking. It's like riding along, having a good time, and then lights out.
Yep.
That quickly.
Yep.
Just lights out. And then next thing I know, I come to as I'm getting pulled onto the boat. And I'm like, what's going on? You know, and I see my sister like pulling me up onto the boat. And I was like, whoa, okay, that was bad. That was bad.
So do you remember the wreck, or did somebody have to tell you about it?
I remember like hearing the fiberglass for a split second crushing.
Yeah.
Like the crushing noise of the fiberglass. And then it was it. And I was blacked out.
Wow.
Until I got pulled onto the boat.
That's incredible.
And then they kind of had to explain it. Like, you know, I was like, what the heck happened? Oh, you got T-boned by your cousin. No hard feelings if she's listening.
Oh, I mean, accidents happen.
I mean, we were both very, very young. I mean, arguably probably too young. There was probably some sort of liability waiver that said, you know, no riders under the age of 16 or 18
and this
even.
is why.
Yeah, I mean, we were the poster children for what not to do.
So with injury comes kind of for some people, a psychological aftertaste, right? So have you been on jet skis since? I can assume you have been.
I have been.
Some way.
Yeah.
And does this memory conjure up?
Yeah. Every time I got on a jet ski after that, I was extra vigilant, you know, defensive driving, head on a swivel.
Yeah.
Never could really relax and enjoy it anymore.
So when I've talked about that, I've done did gymnastics when I was younger, and I was very bad at it. I started, like I said, I started my junior year in high school, which is way too old. I'm way too tall, but I just think gymnastics is one of the coolest things ever, and I just wanted to do it.
I'd love to see you do giants with your height.
Dude, it's like my toes would scrape the ground. Like it's ridiculous,
They
right?
couldn't get the bar high enough.
Yeah. So I remember I was working on a front tuck, right? A front flip on the floor. And it's so funny because front flips are like 10 times harder than back flips, but I couldn't do it. I had this mental block with going backwards. So I was really good at front handsprings and I wanted to get a front tuck. And so anyways, I kept doing this drill to where I would run and I would punch the ground. And a punch is when you're quite literally punching the ground with your feet. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to explain, but a lot of people don't know this, but these mats, some have like the little springs under them, or even if they don't, the actual mat you're on has a certain resiliency to it to where it's supposed to propel you, right? So that's why when you see street performers like who are doing round off, back handspring, back tuck, or like doing back fulls on concrete, you're like, how? It's amazing. So when you punch the ground, you're running and it's so hard to explain what is happening, but you're not jumping, you're punching, and your feet are, you're kind of just erecting your legs and hitting with the balls of your feet, and it just propels your body. The energy has to go somewhere. It travels through your skeletal system and takes you in the air. That's what punching the ground is. All right. So I had to punch the ground and do a front tuck and land it. This is what I wanted. It was my goal. So it was so hard, man. It was so hard to get this giant body, this giant inexperienced body to do a front flip. So I would do it onto a crash pad, and I would just do it over and over again. Just keep trying to do it over and over again. And can't explain it, but it was time to give it a go. And I was still using the crash pad, and something, I don't remember, but somebody had given me advice of like, you need to rotate more. Like you need to get more aggressive, more explosive in your rotation. You keep expecting to jump in the air and slowly do this flip. These aren't slow. It's a tuck. It's not a whip. It's not a whip. You got to just tuck. All right. So that's what I'm gonna do. My brain's like, we're going to tuck like we've never tucked before, Helmy. like never. And then the other part of my brain's like, are we still punching? Like we're still jumping? And they're like, no, don't worry about the jump. We're just doing tuck. So I ran, and I can't quite explain. It's super embarrassing, but I don't really get it, dude. But I went as hard as I could and just didn't do the jump part. So what happened is I face planted into the mat, but the body kept going. So my head stayed in one place and my body kept turning, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember as it was happening, it's very hard to I can remember all of this. It happened and I ended up upright, sitting upright like this, but I was kind of hunched over and I couldn't move. And my brain's all, well, good job, dum-dum. You're now a quadriplegic. Like you cannot move. Wow. And I remember being like, I can do this. And the weird thing is I couldn't hear either. Like it was you know? So I'm like, my Super Bowl is to move my toe. I just want to move my toe. And I'm staring and I can't move my feet. And I'm like, what is going on? So I'm sitting there. I'm really frustrated. Now the voices are starting to come in, and my buddies, and we were all very close, but they're like, Skizz, get off the mat. You know what I mean? Because they're doing their own stuff. And I just laid there and I heard one of them be like, he's not good, man. And the whole class comes running over. My coach just starts screaming, don't touch him. So they all come running over. And I'm sitting there like this, and they're like looking in my eyes, and I can move my eyes, and I'm kind of looking at them and stuff, but I can't move my body, dude. And I remember finding myself in this area where I'm like, it's already time to start accepting that you're a quadriplegic, because I cannot move anything. And so I'm just like upright, like I was kind of like my own body was like weighing down on itself, which is why I was like in this upright weird position. So I'm sitting there, and then I see my toe wiggle. I'm like, oh, baby. I was like, that's all I needed, just a little bit of hope. And then my fingers wiggle. It just took a while. It was almost like, you think of a hose, a garden hose. If you cut it in half, well, then water's not going to go through one of those halves anymore, right? Mm-hmm. This wasn't cut, but if you crimp it, water's not going through, but it's not quite cut in half, right? And then you I think it was like something really weird happened with my spine.
A nerve and then it loosened.
Something, right? Something crimped to where I couldn't send the signal for about, it was probably 10, 15 seconds, felt like a month, right?
Oh, I bet.
And I was just, and slowly my coach was just like, don't touch him. And he got me up real slow. And I don't remember what I did for treatment, but like, obviously I was very sore for several days. So let's fast forward the clock. It's like a week, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks later, and it's time to get back on the mat. I feel fine now. You got to get back on. You cannot let this get in your head. And my coach is like, saying the same stuff to me. He's like, you're here now. You're fine now. Just go through the motions, what you got to do. And I go to do so now I'm like, no crash pad, just straight up floor. I'm doing this front tuck. And that's why I asked you if you get back on a jet ski. It is messing with me, man, to the point where I'm having the hardest time just starting my run. And finally, I'm just like, just go, man. So I start running. And one dude, he was sort of we all loved each other, but he was like the problem child of the group. We all loved him anyways. He like peeks his head in front of me at the last second. He's all, don't break your neck. He just like does that, So I stopped my run. I couldn't do it anymore. It got in my head. And the coach yelled at him, and all of the other, the rest of that, they all just like tackled him, started punching him, like, don't do that, So then I go back, and the whole class is just in my corner, and I went and I just punched the ground, did the tuck, landed it, and I was like, oh, baby.
Wow.
Like, it was so hard to overcome that, man, because I was convinced that was it. I was done. I was done with life, not gymnastics,
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because like a lot of these stories that we're telling, it was like we were younger when it happened, right? And we're able to, like, our bodies are, I guess, much more resilient back then because like now being older and having injuries, it feels like they just linger.
Yes.
So we talked about like me doing that deadlift, right? You even showed the footage in that one podcast of me doing that deadlift of 425 pounds, whatever. My form wasn't great. Couldn't hold my form. It was just too much weight. And it did cause some damage to my back. It somehow like one side of my back like started to pull my hips out of whack a little bit. And so kind of like my hips got a little weird and it would cause some back issues. And it happens still from time to time. I remember last year I had just like, I think it was after I had done the 24-hour live stream and I didn't like get up and stretch enough that like the next week my back just started getting like super tight. And if I didn't like roll it out and stretch it out enough, it would just pull my hips and they would be like completely just like out of whack. And next thing I knew, I couldn't stand up.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't, like I was like hunched over. I couldn't stand up straight. And I had to go see like a chiropractor and go through a whole bunch of like stuff to like massaging, chiropractor, stretching, all that stuff before I felt normal again. Well, it happens pretty much every day still.
Is it really?
Yeah. So where like I begin my days now, if I don't do this, it becomes a problem. If I don't begin my day by getting up, stretching, and I roll out my back, I have this roller that I like lay on and I just roll across it, my lower back, that muscle that's like super like tense now. I just roll it out every single day and I do a bunch of stretching because I spend the rest of my day in a chair, And so if I didn't do that, then next thing I know, I end the day, I go to stand up and I can't stand up.
Yeah.
So it's like, now it's like super hard to overcome injuries. Like that still haunts me. And that's part of the reason why I got a standing desk and I'm like trying to like force myself to use it more often. So I'm not just like sitting in a chair all day long because I know that if I do that, it's just going to tighten up on me and I'm going to like be dealing with it. I was out of commission last year for like a week. I couldn't work because I couldn't sit at my computer.
Wow.
But
It's not, I don't know what happened. So I got, you talk about getting T-boned with the jet skis. And I've mentioned this before when it was not this Thanksgiving, but exactly a year prior, I got T-boned at that intersection. Right. And that girl it was like red lights didn't exist and she just didn't tap the brakes and completely hit me on the driver's side. And it was bad. It was really bad. And I've been hit like that before, but I was younger. And when it happened that time, I felt like a superhero. That was one where I was able to get out of the truck before it stopped moving. I felt like an absolute rock star. But I'm not that superhero anymore. I'm a out of shape old fella. And when she hit me, that one hurt. You know what I mean? I didn't want to let her know because she was very much beside herself, and I was alive and standing, and so was she. But that one hurt. And I think the back pains I felt like a month later were related. I could be wrong, but not only do I still to this day have anxiety and PTSD going through that intersection, it's crazy. Like, and I'll be in the car by myself, like, and it's a red light and I'm sitting there at my red light waiting. It turns green and I wait a while. And as I go, I'm like, okay, it's green for me, everybody, not for you. Like I'm actually, you know what I mean? And so not only does that linger, but I feel like the back pain I felt later was connected, and it was a month or two later. And I'll tell you what, man, this is no joke. I was in my bed and I couldn't get up. I couldn't get out of bed. Not one of those, you can get out of bed, it's just going to be painful. It was, if the house was on fire, I would burn alive.
Wow.
Like I can't get up. I can't get up because it was like, I would go like try to roll myself this way. And then it was like somebody was in my spine, like with a needle going, nope. You know what I mean? And like you can't, like, it's the weirdest feeling. And I just sat there. And so now I'm in bed and there's nobody home and I'm laying there and I'm like, what? I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. You know what I mean? I'm like, my family's going to come home and I'm going to like I'm going to have soiled myself. Like, what am I going to do? And luckily after like 20, 30 minutes, something was able to, but I was still like this complete wreck. And, I went and like, finally did some therapy, and the therapy would like put electrodes on me. They went nuts on my back, and I had to go several times to get it all back. But I remember feeling this injury and thinking, I don't want to live. If this is my life, I don't want to live like this. Like I can't move, man. What is going on? And it was like this phantom pain that came on back and just completely crippled me, man. But now because for that reason, right? So we talk about injury. You also want to think about how do you manage through these, even if you're not like a professional athlete. We're still professional humans. We still have to live our life.
Right. Yeah. It'd be nice to live our lives pain-free, right? It's not a luxury everybody has. I get that. But, that's why I said, it's like, if I know that I can get through the day pain-free as long as I take care of myself in a way every morning by getting up and stretching and rolling it out and doing all that stuff, then I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Because the opposite is just like letting it overtake me, and I'm not going to let it slow me down, you know?
Yeah. So I bet you there's sometimes you roll out your back and it's not even bothering you.
Right.
That's the difference.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference, right? If I want this calf to get better, I've got to be stretching it. And I am. I've got to be stretching it when I don't feel any pain, when it doesn't talk to me. And that's the thing you have to, like, that's the problem. If you remember, so I've always had a kind of a bad back. I really have. So it might not be related to the accident, but if you remember, when you and I were in college together, there would be times, it was pretty rare, but there'd be times where we'd be walking down the hallway and I would just lock up and I'd be like, Impulse, you gotta take my bag. And you would take my bag off me and I would have to sit there and just like lean up against the wall for X amount of time until it would like loosen or whatever it was. I wasn't even in bad shape. I'm a tall dude and bad back like kind of run in my family. It wasn't until I started Olympic lifting that problem went away. But if you remember when we would play basketball, right? We'd walk out to the court, I'd feel fine. And the first thing I would do every time was I would do that long cat and preacher stretch on the ground, really, it would take a while. You guys were cool about it. You guys were giving me some crap, but you guys were, in fact, our buddy Matt used to do the best thing. So this stretch, if you can imagine, you're on your knees and you're sitting back on your feet and you're laying down in front as far as you can. You're stretching your hands and your fingers out as far as you can to stretch that lower back, and your face is like, your forehead's like on the ground, right? And if you remember, Matt would stand in front of me like a superhero, like I was bowing to him. It was so funny. But, my back felt fine going into those games, but I would always do that every time to get started. You have to manage these things. Injury sucks, man. It sucks. But if you're going to come back, if you have any prayer of coming back, you got to be diligent.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes we mentioned like, okay, we did the resilience session, and that's kind of bring it full circle again, is like when it comes to injuries, you gotta have that same kind of attitude of like, remember picking yourself up, start with one arm to push yourself off the ground and then get to your knees and then stand up. It's the same kind of thing with injuries. You got to have the patience to let your body heal, but then also go through the work. Yeah. That, and that, like, you hear stories about how tough rehab could be. Oh man. For injuries. Kyler Murray's about to go through some tough rehab, after tearing his ACL. But he'll do it. I know he will. He's like, if he wants to play football again, he's got to do it. And so, like, same thing with the rest of us. If I want to be able to sit at a desk all day long and create content, I got to get up and roll out my back. It has to happen. Yeah.
He's going to do it and end up playing baseball again. I'm saying it here and now. You watch. We'll see. I might be wrong about that. But no, that's, what's crazy is that neck injury I had in gymnastics always kind of lingered with me. And I remember that memory led to sort of like, so when I got diagnosed with MS, right? Before that led to that. Like, not the injury didn't give me MS, but when I was having these interesting things happening in my body, my fingertips were burning all the time and I didn't know what was going on. And I remember when I would look down at like my feet, I would get this like weird, wicked buzzing throughout my whole body. So I thought it was related to that old neck injury. And then that's when they did the MRI and they're like, no, this is much worse. But I remember being like, boy, this is years later, man. This is probably, I was 25 when I got diagnosed, and that neck injury I was probably like 17. I was like, this is like 8 years later. Like, what the heck, man? Mm-hmm. But it wasn't at all. It was not only does the injury stick with you and the lessons that you have to learn to get through those, but the psychological piece can really imprint on you. Yeah. There's people who go through a certain injury to where now they can't, whatever that thing was before, they can't do that thing anymore. Mm-hmm. Not because of the injury, but just from a purely psychological standpoint.
Yeah.
And that's, now you need therapy.
Yeah, exactly.
Like mental therapy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
and they have that. Like that's all like sports psychiatry.
Sports guys. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think my that was something that interested my daughter, actually, because she's like me. She finds psychology interesting. She finds psychiatry very interesting. She's obviously very athletic and she wants to help people. And that was something that kind of pondered.
Those two worlds collide and there is a profession for it. It's crazy.
You got, and that because those people, that profession is all about the mind getting in there, right? I told that story not too long ago about that girl who's struggling with the box jumps. I don't remember why she was struggling. She may have gotten hurt, right? You can get hurt on those things.
Yeah.
And so that was the same thing. Something that she used to do, she couldn't do anymore because the brain was blocking her. And so you have to, if it's something that you want that bad, you have to be willing to accept the fact that it's going to be harder than it ever was. But it's not impossible. It's not impossible. Set your goals, do your thing, do the diligence that you've got to do to get back on the horse. And then once you get there, face it right in the eyes that it's going to be harder than it ever was. But you can do it.
Yeah. And if you manage to do it, celebrate it.
Yeah. Right? Make sure you do that.
Yeah. Because I bet you once you got your front tuck,
oh my gosh,
you probably nailed it every time after.
I did. And I did. And I felt like, I mean, you want to see one I can do right now if you want.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right, dude. Yeah, right.
That'd be amazing if you stood up and just like went for it.
Dude.
There's not enough room in here, unfortunately. That's the reason you're not doing it. There's not enough space.
Yeah, otherwise it'd be fine.
Yeah, of course.
You know what's amazing? If I stood up and tried to do it right now, just try to picture the nightmare that would ensue. My giant butt would land on this table, crack it in half like I'm on the WWE. My feet would hit you in the head.
Yeah, it would be a nightmare. It'd be a nightmare.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's not do that. You know, we typically do these podcasts and we try to think like, okay, we hope there's some sort of positive message that people can take out of it. Not everything in life is going to be, rainbows and butterflies,
no.
Especially when it comes to injuries, and everybody's probably got their own stories to tell. And obviously some people are going to be in worse places than others. But,
of course.
But hopefully one thing did resonate, and it's more like back to the resilience thing, and just like sometimes life is going to kick you in the teeth.
Yeah.
And, hopefully you can find it within yourself to get motivated and get past whatever you're dealing with. So I guess that's the message that we have.
I know. That's like,
you and I chilled this podcast. I don't know if the people watching
look how comfortable we are.
It's a little colder today, and we're all in our comfy sweaters and stuff, and we both kick back, hands in our pockets.
Am I even in the main show? Who cares? I don't even care.
We might not actually be in the video. We kicked back so far out of frame, but
I'm comfy, dude. I
I'll
can
sit
dig
back up to end this one. Anyway, thanks again, everybody. I think we'll end it here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one, and it's always fun hanging out and just telling stories.
Yeah. All right. I want to hear your stories too about being injured.
Oh yeah, I'd love to hear them. Drop them in the comments.
You know you got some good ones. All right. Thank you.
Yep. See you.